everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room and welcome back to actual sewing videos on this channel. I know it's been a little while. It's been like about a month since I have sewn anything, which is crazy. But hopefully you've enjoyed the last few non-sewing videos on this channel. If you have watched those, like a Disneyland vlog, trip to Anime LA and my first ever masquerade, a trip to the LA Fabric District, etc. But it is time to get back to my Tudor Jane project. So I just actually had a nice little look about where I left off because I couldn't remember. And that is one of the helpful things about keeping these like video dress diaries or a written dress diary. I recommend that you keep some sort of dress diary because if you ever have to abandon a project for a little bit and then you pick it back up again, you can just watch or read your dress diary to know where you left off. Because I was looking at these pieces and I was like, what came next? Especially because I was looking at this one, which really is just, it has a seam here with right sides together, but then it's just like two loose pieces. And so I started watching my video and realized, oh, I prepped this side for the eyelets. You can see my markings there, but I never actually even got around to prepping this side. I ran out of time before I went down to California. So first thing that I'm going to be doing is prepping this side exactly like I prepped this one, which means a boning channel, marking all of my eyelets, and then another boning channel. And then once that one is prepped, then I can go ahead and actually start putting in my eyelets. Now I'm going to be doing these eyelets on my Viking machine. The nice thing about Viking is that they don't do it anymore unfortunately, but they used to have an eyelet plate where you can actually make functional eyelets, sewn eyelets on your machine. So highly recommend that if you can get your hands on them. They are long since discontinued and they only work on Viking machines, so good luck. But if I can find one online, I will link it down below in the description. I will also link my tutorial on how to do those eyelets down in the description because I have published a YouTube short about how to make those eyelets that kind of goes into that in more detail. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do those and then we can figure out where else I left off with this bodice and see how much we can get done this weekend because it's already Friday and you know me, these videos go 1 week at a time. Luckily I have today, tomorrow, and most of Sunday to do sewing. So let's dive in. Both sides of the under front section are now not only prepped, but they have eyelets. I don't even know how well you can see those. This project is going to be a lot of black on black plus like little pops of, you know, crazy silver hollow, etc. Which reminds me that I haven't actually shown you the newest fabrics that I got. You saw them if you saw my fabric haul video from the LA Fabric District, but I will show you those in a moment. But anyway, the eyelets are all done on both sides. I also now have bones in here. I am using synthetic whalebone. I think it's like the 6mm wide variety, something like that. But that is what I find works really well around these boning channels. I'm hoping that I don't need further boning in this. We'll see. But what I now can do is I am going to probably baste around the edges here and then attach these to the back pieces that are over there on the dress form. Then I can try it on and with like the over flap piece, make sure that everything actually works so that we can move on to like doing the finishings of the bodice. We can move on to sleeves and doing like the forepart and the undersleeves and everything. So speaking of forepart and undersleeves, let me show you those fabrics I just got. So for one, I did get more of the hollow organza. I already had 2 yards, but I was a little bit worried that that wouldn't be quite enough. And this was incredibly inexpensive in the Fabric District. I think it was literally like $1 a yard, minimum cut 2 yards. Either that or it was $2 a yard, minimum cut 2 yards. Regardless, that's super cheap. So I have another 2 yards now. Now I have plenty, which is good because I am probably going to have to play around with this a little bit because my plan is to make kind of the Tudor building look sort of situation that Jane from Six's bodice looks like, to do that, but in probably a slightly shrunken down manner on the sleeves, and maybe a slightly expanded manner on the forepart, just because of surface area, and to do that for the kind of under sleeves that like hang and look all thick and bulky, but not the big drapey part, because the big drapey part is a different fabric. But yeah, I'm also going to use it for the forepart, aka the center section of the skirt, that is a different contrasting fabric, and often the forepart matches the undersleeves. So this is the fabric for the drapey oversleeves. I almost feel like it looks like faux like armor chainmail from farther away, but it is this reflective silver on black with additional silver metallic threads through the black background. I'm hoping that it won't look cheapy. That's my only worry, but this is going to be the big drapey part of the sleeves. I'm gonna have to back this with something because A, it's very stretchy, which I don't want, and B, it's a little too drapey. So I will figure out what fabric's gonna work best for the backing, whether that is just like a cotton or a twill or I don't know. I'm gonna look around my stash and see what I have. But yeah, this was my new fabric purchase in the fabric district, and I got this instead of doing the same thing that I had done for the Jane cosplay, which was this with this netting over it like that. So I'm still a little like wondering if I actually made the right decision. Kiralee says I did. My mom says I did. I hope they're both right. I have doubts, but it's moot now because I'm not going back to the fabric district before I need to finish this project. So this is what it's going to be. In any case, I'm going to go put those front bodice sections together with the back and let's do a try on. I've decided to do the sleeve mock-up before trying on the bodice, and this is the sleeve pattern from the Simplicity pattern. I am going to size this up to a 26 because if I remember correctly, that's what I've been doing with everything else, and then I'm just going to cut it out as is. Otherwise, this is obviously just the upper sleeve. These sleeves are super, super complicated. There's literally like, I think 2 pages of sleeve info. So like part of it is here, but that is just the upper sleeve. And then there's more over here, and that actually starts on the other side of this page, I think, too. So there's a lot because this is all the lower sleeve, and then it's kind of got like a false sleeve in here that I think would have been the smock underneath, but this is kind of getting a half one built in, which I appreciate because I'm not doing this historically accurately, and I think that that will be fine for me. And so this lower sleeve, that is what the hollow fabric is going to be. I'm going to use velvet ribbon for the Tudor striping area, and I'm waiting for that to arrive right now, just black velvet ribbon. I tried it with the stuff that I had that was left over from Jane. It didn't look good. So hopefully the velvet ribbon will work. But this is going to come later. First, I want to do the upper sleeve because that is going to get fitted into the bodice. So this then gets fitted in this step into the bodice, and we're going to try that on all together and see hopefully if that works. So yeah, I'm going to size this up to a 26, cut it out of some mock-up fabric, and let's try everything on. So we have a bit of a problem. I mean, yes, the neckline of my shift does not work. This is an 18th century chemise. I can loosen it at least a little bit, but we have a problem. This is really, really far away from my bust. And I think I know the solution for this, and I think I know the reason for this. I mean, obviously it is too high, but between when I made the last couple of videos and now, I have now read the Tudor Tailor. And although I had to return it to the library, I did take pictures of like the important pieces for this garment, for this outfit. And one of the things that was really clear is, I mean, first off, you are meant to be wearing a kirtle. We know that. We've gone over this. I know that I'm meant to be wearing a kirtle under this. I'm not going to. So that part is moot. But we're going to fake it. We're going to fake like I'm wearing a kirtle. And so what we actually need to be doing here is that the bodice itself, the bodice of the gown, stops really, really freaking low, because the kirtle shows for a good, like, I don't know, what is that, 1.5 inches or so above the top of the gown. And then, even then, like when we look at a portrait of Jane Seymour, we can see that the neckline is still really low by modern day standards. And that's even with the kirtle. So this outer garment is so way too high. We're going to have to cut it down. It just doesn't work at this height. It needs to be lower. And I'm talking like, this needs to be like way lower. I mean, this at the maximum, I think needs to be the height. And really, we probably want to cut it down even further and then have the kirtle sticking up. I want to try and keep it as high as I can just for my own comfort level with the kirtle. But I think that's still going to be like this. I mean, this has the same allowance on it right now, so it is higher than it even actually is meant to be, but it needs to be lower. My worry though, frankly, is that it's also too big up here. I don't know, like, it's laced closed, and I mean, looking down my bodice, since I can do that right now, it's not actually like fitting until about here. And obviously if we're gonna stop it up here or even here, that's a problem because that means that all of that space is too big. So I think we need to go in and tighten on our side seams here. The straps are also obviously totally falling off my shoulders. I don't know what narrow shouldered women did in this period. It was something I was actually thinking about yesterday because that was a really big problem that I had when I made my original Tudor gown back in college, was everything just instantly fell off my shoulders because I didn't know how to fit things anyway. And so, you know, I didn't mock that up and get rid of that problem. But I've always had a narrow shouldered problem basically with really all of my costumes through time. And when we again look at like Jane Seymour's neckline, it is so freaking wide that it seems like there is no shoulder left with which the straps can hang on to. So we're gonna have to figure that out, and if I have to narrow it up just to make them stay on my shoulders, that's what we're gonna do, because I'm not gonna walk around a con with my sleeves falling off my shoulders the whole time. So I'm gonna have to figure that part out, but I think already this needs to come in here. And so I guess it doesn't matter so much that we're going to take in the seam a little here. I mean, it's even a little too big over here too. Like I can pinch out a bit here, which obviously I shouldn't be able to do. So frankly, until we get to almost the waist, I think we need to remove like 2 inches from up here. Like it's pretty severe, honestly, which is not the best, but it's what we have to do. So let's go ahead, cut this down a whole bunch and take it in at these front side seams. But you know what? I started to mark all of this, and yes, obviously I have not tried the sleeve on because we need to get this part all sorted before I can even attach the sleeve. But I think one of the other issues that I'm having right now is because the bottom still has its seam allowance down, it is kind of hitting the ridge of the bum roll here and then riding up from there, which means I think I actually need to bind off the bottom before I can even mess with the neckline. The waist fits. The waist is great. I don't think it needs to be shortened. I don't think it needs to be taken in, anything like that. So I really don't have any qualms with going ahead and binding off the bottom of the bodice. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna use some bias tape, hopefully I have some, and turn that and bind that off, which will make me lose a 1/2 inch down here at the bottom, or approximately a 1/2 inch down here at the bottom. And that will allow the bodice to sit down a little bit lower, hopefully, that's the goal. And then I can figure out how much needs to be taken and where. All right, I have bound off the bottom of this, and I now have this on inside out so that I can access these seams. Now, after I put it on, after I laced it up, you can see I also undid these, but after I laced it up, I was also like, oh, let's actually just take out the boning channels. I had already unpicked the tops of the 2 center boning channels while I was doing the binding because I found that they were just pushing a little bit too far down for me to nicely turn up the binding at those corner points there. So I already undid those. And then I tried to take the boning out, and this one came out just fine. This one is stuck. I think that somehow the stitching went through the bone down at the bottom because I cannot for the life of me pull this out even when using pliers. That's how stuck it is. So I'm gonna have to figure out once I take it off how I can get that one out. I haven't tried to take this side out. I'll just work at this and like fold down the top over here to figure out where that needs to go. I am also going to undo this seam probably down to about here because frankly I don't think I want to make the side any smaller. I think I just want to make the front smaller. I think the side is in a nice place as is. I don't want it to go further back, because if it goes further back, then it's going to be not in the right place to be covered by the front panel here, which unfortunately this front panel is almost certainly also going to have to be cut down at the top, which is too bad because I've already finished all of the edges on this one. But yeah, we are going to take this section right here in. We are going to fold this down and figure out where it needs to end, which is maybe there, but frankly, maybe even a little bit lower. And hopefully that will fix all of our problems. Oh, and once we do that, we can figure out where these straps actually need to connect. So I think it is somewhere around this level right here that the outer bodice should stop. So I'll keep up a little bit of seam allowance there and then fold that down. And then over that for about 1 inch will be my fake kirtle. Though I'm not yet sure, to be honest, if maybe I can apply the fake kirtle to this. It should be from behind, obviously, because it's kirtle, it's coming from behind. But if I can figure out how to apply it to this instead, which is this way up, then maybe I could get away with not having to like take this fully apart and decrease the length of it, because I think the amount that I have taken down, yeah, the amount that I've taken down is the amount that I need to have there. It's just that in having it as like the supportive underbodice, well, and also it was, you know, too big, so I've just got this kind of pinned right now, but in having it be the underbodice and also having it boned in the center, it was sticking up and away from me, whereas it's possible that this, well, I guess it would be this height. I can't really do it because these stupid bones are still stuck in there, but it would be just like that. And because this is pinned, it is more flexible. So I think maybe it could kind of pull itself in, because I also wasn't planning to do any boning in this. I mean, I've already sealed it off. There's no boning in it. It was going to kind of rest on the little bit of boning that's around the laces here, but namely the corset that I'm wearing underneath, so that this didn't actually have the boning. I'm planning to attach it on one side and just pin it on the other, but maybe for flexibility's sake, then again, if I'm always going to wear this lace closed, then that should be fine, and I should be able to do that no problem. Just basically find the center and sew it in place on one side and have it pinned with little pins on the other. Yeah, I think that side will be the easier side to pin since it'll be my right hand pinning it. But yeah, I think maybe I can get away with doing that, because the kirtle, the top of the kirtle was decorated with all sorts of gems and, you know, other embellishments. I mean, just looking at the picture here, we have a little bit of lace at the top. I'm looking at it on my phone, plus all of those little pearls, plus like all of the little gold and gem sections going across. And then we had the bodice with trim on it. But like there's a ribbon kind of backing all of the gem and pearl section. And so if I do some sort of a backing where it looks like it's something else, I mean, like looking at her painting, it does not look like it's coming from behind the velvet. It looks like it is part of the velvet layer, which is why until I read the Tudor Tailor, I didn't even have that concept that it is like a much lower bodice with the kirtle behind. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna try and do. First thing we need to do though is obviously fix this and actually like fold this down right, get the boning unstuck from here so that I can do that side correct. But I'm feeling a lot more confident about this. Once I fix those, then I can really make the straps go in the right place too. They're just randomly pinned here. And then once I figure out the straps, then I can also bind off this whole bit and then figure out if this will work as is. So I think I mostly have the front sorted at this point. I've kind of folded over the top here. The one downside is that there is now no eyelet for the top inch of this. I don't think that's really gonna matter, but I'm not positive. But the other thing that I'm kind of noticing here is like, I really like the nice wide square here. I think that this is going to stay on my shoulders. Hopefully. I mean, there's only so much moving around I can do while I'm like fitting it, but it seems like it will hopefully stay on my shoulders. But the thing is that I feel like starting here, it is curving in somewhat significantly. And although that obviously helps it stay on my shoulders, I feel like that is not historically accurate. So I'm torn with like trying to basically cut away some of the strap, because I do think that my strap maybe is a little bit wide, though I have not removed the seam allowances from here yet, so maybe it's fine. But I'm torn with cutting that away, because I will, or I should have a decorative edge like on the interior too, because I'm pretty sure that is also in her portrait. Let me double check. Yeah, it's hard to see, but it looks like there is kind of from here out, there's a little decorative edge with more of that like pearled and gold gem type situation going on there. And then the other thing that I'm wondering kind of in relation with all that is the back too high? I feel like a lot of Tudor bodices, when we see the back, which is not often, of course, but they actually sit a little bit lower. But at what point, if like I lower it, will either my corset, which is right here, or the chemise show? I mean, even with the corset, there's not that much room above. And also, if I lower it, will that make it more inclined to fall off the shoulders? And the answer is probably yes, because I think the fact that it's coming together a little higher is actually helping to keep it on the shoulders. So basically, in saying all of that, I think I'm probably going to keep it as is and hope that that works. I might even need to tighten up these straps just a tiny bit more. It's really hard to pin them in place while they're tight enough, but I think that's where they need to be. They're just pinned right now. They need to get sewn in place. I'm also going to cut away the armpit a little bit more from this piece, because it kind of curves up and then doesn't meet here anymore. So I'm going to curve it to the seam, and I think that that will be better. And I think that's where these are pinned to anyway. So that just makes sense. So I'll make those couple of changes, leave the back probably as is, and that should be good to move on to sleeves. I figured I should try on the front over panel as well. For one thing, I am not going to be able to pin this shut on myself. I cannot pin either side properly. So it's going to be sewn on one side, and I'm going to have to do hooks and bars, I guess, on the other side. Not historically accurate. Who cares? If I need to, I'll put little puff paint of pins there like Jane's has. I don't think that matters, because, you know, this whole thing is very not historically accurate. So it's going to have hooks and bars, and hopefully that will work fine, because that I can probably manage to do, but the pinning, no. The other thing is that it definitely sticks up away. I think I'm going to cheat on this and run like a little bit of a drawstring underneath where the trim's going to go, and that should work. And then I think that I'm going to put the trim over where the drawstring is, like that top, I don't know, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch or something like that, and then put the lace behind and above it, because that will give me the slightly higher neckline that I want. I still don't know if I'm going to be able to use this shift with it, unfortunately. I might have to make a different one, but it'll give me that slightly higher neckline. This will curve in because of the drawstring. I won't have to recut things, and that should hopefully all work. I don't know. It's not going to plan, but I think it's still all going to work. So the straps are now sewn in place, and as you can see, there is also bias tape that is waiting to be hand sewn down all along the neckline. So that is my next step. But also I had some trim options arrive that I wanted to kind of go over with you here. Now this was the trim that I was going for, but I kind of didn't think I was going to like it in the white, which honestly, that's true. I don't really love it in the white. And so I had also ordered it in black. Or so I thought, because this is what arrived in black. As you can see, it's the same trim. Maybe you can't see that, but it's the same trim, but it's like half the size. This is not going to work, unfortunately. I hope, found another seller who is selling this. This is all from Amazon, by the way. But I have found a seller who is selling this. Unfortunately, it takes way longer to ship. So that's going to be here like next weekend or something like that. But I'm hoping that it will at least be correct, because I really like this width. I think that that will actually work. This is to go along the top of the faux kirtle and around the whole neckline, and is also to be used on other places laces like as a necklace and stuff, and as a girdle, aka a belt, kind of along the bottom here as well. So we'll see, because I think I'm going to wind up sending this one back. It's just too white on it. However, there is one other option, and that is that I also bought these. These are meant to be buttons. They're not buttons. There's like no button loop, but that's fine because I wasn't going to use them as buttons. I was going to use them as like hand sewing them on. So if I use these, which I'm not positive about, I do like the scale of them, but I think I need to open up the package and kind of lay it out. If I do go to use it, what's going to happen is I'm going to put them on like probably a black ribbon or something like that that is kind of in there acting like the faux kirtle. And then I would hand sew these onto that ribbon, or maybe onto like a piece of fabric, etc. But that would be the other option if the actual size of the black doesn't work, because I do like this. Like, that is nice, but one piece of ribbon is from there to there. I did not read the description and thought it was the same size as this one. This is 0.6 inches wide. This is 0.4 inches wide, and it makes a big difference. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and hand sew down all of my bias tape, and then maybe we'll have time to try on a sleeve mock-up this week. Actually, I realized I don't think I showed you the trims that were already in my stash. So this is one of the trims. I am almost definitely going to be using this, and I'm going to be using this below the kirtle line. So this would be like on the bodice. I don't know yet whether it will go up or down with the scallop, but it's going to go across and around the neckline of the bodice below the kirtle line. And then I also have this silver metallic lace. Now it's meant to be really wide, but what I have done when I've used this lace in the past, because I've used this a lot, so I hope that I actually have enough left, because there's not a ton left, but I cut it. And so with this, I might even just cut it so that each of the scallops, like half of one of this, is on its own, and this would poke up above the kirtle as the little lace above the kirtle. So I'm kind of thinking that that's what I'm going to do, cut it like down the middle of this sort of eye here, and then apply that to the top. Oh, and lastly, my black velvet ribbon also arrived from Amazon. So this is going to be used for the lower sleeves and for the forepart. So honestly, I don't know why I'm bothering to even set in this sleeve. I know it's going to be wrong. This is how eased in this sleeve is right now. It is way too big for this arm's eye, but I don't know if like the rest of the sleeve might fit, and then I can kind of wedge the gathered portions out to make it literally just ease as opposed to gather, which is what's happening right now. So I guess I'm going to set it with a really large stitch length and try it on anyway, and then we'll go from there. So yeah, it does not work. I decided it wasn't even worth putting on my corset and everything for this. It's basically a puffed sleeve. And luckily, I guess, maybe it's also a little bit too big around the arm. I feel like it's also really short. Like, I don't think that the draped sleeve portion is meant to come up this high, but this is where the pattern has the seam for it between like this and the lower sleeve, meaning that they are intending for that lower sleeve to come up to here. And I guess looking at her portrait, I guess maybe it does come up just past here, but I feel like once you take out the seam allowance, it just seems a little too high. I'm looking at the portrait. And so I feel like this needs to come down at least a half an inch to an inch lower so that I can get that there. Also, we can see a little bit of wrinkling going on within the sleeve, but it is definitely slim fit into the shoulder. Like, there is no seam. We do not see a seam. So even the easing should be like almost non-existent. So this is definitely not the answer. So I've got to remake this entire sleeve, or mock-up anyway, make it longer, make it a little bit narrower down here, but not much, and make all of this puff go away. So I just checked, and my sleeve mock-up that I just did was 26¼ inches around where it goes into the arm's eye. What I need, that includes 1 inch of ease, is 23 5/8. So it was way too big. So I had to figure out how to kind of reverse slash and spread this down. So this is my adaptation of the sleeve pattern, the existing sleeve pattern. I am now going to add the length that I need to add, but I think this shape should work. It gives me the right dimension or length up here, and then I've also taken out that little bit down here. This will obviously need some evening off, but I'm adding the length anyway, so we will figure that out in mock-up number 2. Well, I have mock-up number 2 on here. Again, no corset or anything. And it's better, but it is not there yet. Obviously, there is still a lot of gathers here, even though I thought that I did the math and that 1 inch of ease would not wind up doing that, because in the past, when I've done 1 inch of ease, it's been fine and it's just eased out. But obviously, there is still too much. The other thing that I'm trying to figure out is, like, I have a complete angle right here, but there's not a complete angle with the sleeve, and I don't know how to fit a sleeve into a complete angle without easing. Because normally, like, if this was a puffed sleeve or something, that would be fine. I've done that before when there's been a complete angle and it just goes away. And I'm trying to think with, like, 18th century gowns, I feel like you get the angle in there sometimes, and I know that 18th century sleeves are shaped quite differently, probably partially at least to compensate for that. But yeah, I'm just not sure what to do in this instance to get rid of the easing that's kind of being required to get around this corner. So I feel like I need to zhuzh things around. There is also still maybe too much room in the sleeve. I don't think so though, because remember, this is going to be really thick fabric. And I feel like whenever you have seams with really thick fabric, you have to allow additional room within the garment, especially a sleeve, for that thickness to exist, especially with, like, when there's a seam in here. So I'm going to have the thickness of whatever I do for interlining of the big drape, and then also just the thickness of this fabric and its lining, because that's what the top of the sleeve is going to be. So I don't know. I think the length is good. So that got fixed. That's great. But I'm really kind of torn on how to get the rest of this easing out. So I'm going to play around with stuff and see if I can figure it out. So I just kind of like pulled up the sleeve to ease it in this area here. And then I undid the stitching all across from basically here to the seam in the back, and just kind of again eased that out so that I lost an entire inch actually at the top of the sleeve, I guess removing the 1 inch of ease that I had put in there. And then I redid the seam in the back there and took out that inch at the top, tapered it out to about a ½ inch at the bottom. So it lost some of that extra width down here. Hopefully that doesn't make it too tight, but I think I got the sleeve. Like, I mean, the upper sleeve, the tiniest portion of this sleeve, because the sleeve is so complicated. Just really quickly, this is what I mean by pulling up the inside. So you can see the seam allowance of the sleeve is way far away from where that corner is. The blue is the stitch line. So yeah, I've pulled it up in a lot of places going all the way around, but especially kind of in both of those corners where the strap is meeting. And now I'm just going to cut all of that excess away, and that will be my finished sleeve pattern. But yeah, I think that I've got the upper fitted part of the sleeve. This looks like it works. So I guess that means that I can go ahead and cut the upper portion out of the black sparkly, which, you know, that describes everything in this project, but out of the bodice and overskirt fabric, I can cut that out along with a lining. I think I'm gonna use like just a cotton. I would use cotton sateen, but I don't think I have any black cotton sateen left, and I don't know where to get it now. So if you guys have an idea of where to get black cotton sateen for a good price, please let me know, because I've looked online and I'm kind of at a loss for black. I can find white, but I really like having black when I work with black or dark colored things, and I like lining with sateen. That's my favorite thing to line with. Cotton sateen non-stretch, because the problem is when I search it, it always brings up the stretch sateen that seems to be just everywhere, and none of the 100% cotton non-stretch. But yeah, I think we're good up there. So that's great. Which is good, because you know what? It's actually time to end this video. In fact, I cheated a little bit. It's Monday night right now. but I feel like I got a decent amount done this week, and I'm looking forward to knocking out a whole bunch more next week. I would really like to either get the sleeves fully put together, like all of the different pieces, or start on the 4-part as well. That's the other big thing that I kind of just want to like get out of the way. And now that I've got the velvet ribbon, I can start doing all of that Tudor striping. I know that's going to take a while, but I am confident that it shouldn't be too bad. Hopefully. So yeah, that's going to be it for this video. If you like this video, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube at least once a week, usually with sewing vlogs like this out on Tuesdays, and sometimes with additional costuming or sewing related content out on Saturdays. But I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can send me a super thanks or join my YouTube channel memberships right here on YouTube below the video. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Jean and Kim. Thank you all so much for joining me today. I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!